All right, shalom, and welcome to another Bible study that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. My name is Isaac ben Israel, and I'm the priest of the United Congregation of Israel. And this is our open Bible study that we do every fourth day, or as it is commonly called, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Before we get started, we're going to start off with a prayer. So we're going to rise and face the east, which is in the direction of the holy city. All males remove your head covering, and females always pray with their head covered. Abba Father, Most High Covenant Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, we humbly come before you, Yahweh, thanking you for allowing us the opportunity to read out of this legacy that you have left unto us. We thank you, Yahweh, for giving us a thirst for your word, and we thank you, Yahweh, for filling that thirst. We pray, Father, that you would continue to allow this thirst to be among us. We pray, Father, that you would have your spirit of understanding to be with us on this night, so that we may be able to grow out of the things that you reveal unto us out of your holy word. We thank you, Yahweh, for allowing us a venue to gather and a venue to teach the lost sheep of the house of Israel, your laws, statutes, and judgments, and what is dear unto you. We pray, Father, that you would not only allow us to have understanding of these things, for many people come to hear your word, but they will not walk in that word. We pray, Father, that you would give us a heart of flesh, that we may be able to not only hear your word, but also walk in your word. We ask these prayers not only for those that gather with us physically, but even those that gather by way of phones and by way of internet, those that gather out of a pure heart to serve you in truth and in spirit. In Yahshua HaMashiach's holy and divine name we pray. Amen and hallelujah.
Amen. Hallelujah.
All right. Now, today we're going to go over the laws and statutes governing not only marriage, but how we are conducting ourselves in that in those unions. As we see, there is turmoil going on all over the earth, and a lot of times, people come to all of these conclusions about, what we need to do. We need to do this. We need to do that. Every bit of judgment that the children of Israel have faced, it is because we have not gone according to what Yahweh has laid out for us as far as what we're supposed to do to attain unto our righteousness. So we have to consider what Yahweh has set forth is not just good reading in this holy book. This is how things are supposed to go, and this is how things are going to go in a holy and righteous kingdom. And if those things are not dealt with, then we face the same punishment over and over. The punishment for the children of Israel has been captivity. That is Yahweh's way of punishing the children of Israel. And we have to get that through our heads so that we can understand we will always be trying to fix our problems in Babylon, trying to fix, all right, well, maybe if we do this and maybe if we do that. The word says, if your people seek you with their whole heart in the places where you have scattered them and pray toward this place, that you would hear them. This is the thing that Shlomo said in his prayer about the house. So you consider that what is important to Yahweh is the culture. So we're going to deal with marriage and family in a righteous kingdom. Let's start in Genesis chapter 9, and we're going to start that at verse 2. So the title of today's class is Marriage and Family in a Righteous Kingdom. So Genesis chapter 9, and we're going to start that at verse 22. And believe it or not, a lot of times people run into issues because we end up asking a whole lot of different people different questions instead of going to the people whose job it is to answer those questions. And what happens is they end up getting a lot of half answers. And this happened to me. I was just coming into the word and decided, I was talking to a couple of deacons. These were brothers in the, congregation. And I don't know if I particularly asked. I mean, they just, were talking and sharing information about, marriage and how things go. And I had a question about some things, but didn't go and seek that any better. And it caused me to alter some things in my house without actually having a good understanding of, what everything was. Just to fast forward a little bit, both of those brothers who gave me the marital advice ended up losing their marriage. So you might want to consider sources as you are taking on this information. If somebody is going to give you marital advice and they themselves have lost 2 or 3 marriages, the first thing they need to be telling you is how not to screw yours up like they screwed theirs up. If they giving you so-called good information, you need to be asking yourself, well, why the hell it didn't work for you? Where your family at? So we have to consider, you have to ask yourself something. Would you take financial advice from the guy who's sleeping on the park bench? Now, he might be able to give you some really good advice about living out on the street, about, what you may encounter. Now, you may talk to him and find out that he used to be a stockbroker, that he might know some things, but you just have to consider that source. You have to ask some questions. Well, how did you, come to the knowledge of this information that you are giving me? And me not having that or not seeking that in the right way, I end up taking advice from people who ended up losing their own homes and never got them back. And this was years ago, and as people have gone their own ways, those things never repaired themselves. So consider that when you are trying to figure out some things. Genesis chapter 9 and verse 22.
And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness.
All right. So even before there is a official law, there is still some official things on how things are supposed to be done. So Ham saw the nakedness of his father and told his brethren. They then went to cover this nakedness of their father, and they went about it in a way so that they would not see the nakedness of their father. Go ahead.
And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him.
Right. So when you deal with that, he awoke from his wine. People try to tell you that grape juice and wine is the same thing. This lets you know there's certain things that you can read that it has certain implications. Like, we're reading this for one thing, but at the same time, we see here he awoke from his wine. I don't care how much grape juice you drink. You ain't never gonna fall asleep. You ain't never gonna get drunk from grape juice. I don't care if you get the best that Welch's make. You are not going to get drunk from it. So this, we have to understand, is not just the father. If it's the father's wife, it is the father's nakedness as well. So a lot of times people look at this and say, hey, it was the father. It could have been the father or his wife, which is the father's nakedness. All right. And this is where you'll also hear that people talk about Ham was cursed black. This is something those Mormons or whatever teach. That very next line says, and cursed be Canaan. It was Canaan that was cursed, not Ham. Now let's go to Leviticus chapter 18. And we're going to read a little bit more about this nakedness. Now, understand this was in Genesis that we were reading this. A lot of times people don't understand, and this Torah is called, these books of Moshe. And there is law in Genesis. The law of the husband, there was law in the garden. When it was said, do not eat from this tree. That was a commandment. That was law. It was not a suggestion. He did not say, I suggest you not eat from this tree. There is law in Genesis. And a lot of times people think, okay, you can only go in, Deuteronomy, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, and that's where all the law is. If Yahweh said it, it is law. Leviticus chapter 18, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am Yahweh your Elohim. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein you dwelt, shall you not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall you not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances.
Neither shall you walk in the ordinance of the people of the land of Canaan. Go ahead.
You shall do my judgments, and keep mine ordinances, to walk therein. I am Yahweh your Elohim. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahweh.
Right. If a man does these, he shall live in them. Then he's also directing his children, his offspring. They are learning these ways because they are watching how their father carries himself. Go ahead.
So that means this becomes a culture and not a religion.
Right. It is definitely, this is what the culture of the Hebrew Israelites is. It is the law of Yahweh. The culture of the Hebrews is the law of Yahweh. They are synonymous. They are not separated. Go ahead.
Verse 6. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him, to uncover their nakedness. I am Yahweh.
Right. Now understand, this is given. This is this official form of the law. Now understand, this wasn't given during the beginning, because we know that starting out, there were people that were with close of kin to start out with. But we didn't find this law there at that time. There was law, but we didn't find this there at that time. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 7.
Because now there are many people on the earth, and there has been many population growth periods. There's no need for people to be within close proximity of family anymore. Go ahead.
The nakedness of your father, or the nakedness of your mother, shall you not uncover. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of your father's wife shall you not uncover. It is your father's nakedness.
Now, go back to Genesis in your mind. Go back to Genesis 9 and 22 and think about it. It says he saw the nakedness of his father. The nakedness of his father can include him or his wife. So understand, when it says his nakedness, that is him or anybody he's married to. Go ahead.
The nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father, or daughter of your mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness shall you not uncover.
Mm-hmm.
The nakedness of your son's daughter, or your daughter's daughter, even their nakedness you shall not uncover, for theirs is your own nakedness.
Uh-huh.
The nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, begotten of your father, she is your sister. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's sister. She is your father's near kinswoman. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, for she is your mother's near kinswoman. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother. You shall not approach to his wife. She is your aunt.
You see that? You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother. You shall not approach to his wife. His wife is his nakedness. Go ahead.
You shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife. It is your brother's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Neither shall you take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. For they are her near kinswomen. It is wickedness.
Right. So when you see those things that those people are doing in the Midwest, and they say they believe in polygamy, which is not a correct term. Polygamy is multiple marriage between a man and a woman, believing that men can have multiple wives and women can have multiple husbands. What the actual term is polygamy, which is multiple marriage regarding a man. So here, what they do in so-called marrying a woman and her daughter is absolute wickedness according to Yahweh. Go ahead.
Verse 18. Neither shall you take a wife to her sister to vex her, to uncover her nakedness, beside the other in her lifetime.
Right. Now you look at this. You shall not take a wife to her sister. You can't marry a woman and her sister to vex her and uncover her nakedness beside the other in her lifetime. This is why the situation with Jacob had to be pushed, that he was not trying to marry two sisters. He was trying to marry one sister. The father then tricked him into marrying another sister. Then he married the other sister. But Yahweh was also making sure that this man had 12 sons, because he was going to be the earthly foundation of what was set up in heaven. So he had to have 12 sons, these 12 sons of Israel, and that needed to come from this same family. So even in with those two wives, there were two other concubines that were added to that, which were the handmaids of those two women. And between those four, he got those 12 sons. Now understand, he had daughters too. They just didn't mention the daughters like that. You have to go in certain other places and you'll find that there are daughters. We know at least one they mentioned, Dinah, who they ended up, killing off a whole bunch of people about, because she was raped. So just understand how these things are set up, that when Yahweh has set something to be, it's going to be. Yahweh is going to Yahweh is omnipotent. He has all control when it comes down to those things. So in this, Yahweh took the power away from him, and the father of the very women was the one who tricked him. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Also you shall not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she's put apart for her uncleanness.
Right. If a woman is set apart for her uncleanness, if she is going through her menstruation, she is set apart and is not to engage in any cohabitation, any sexual contact. So you have, and people get so upset with this, about this, especially when you talk about people who find out that, when a woman is set apart for her uncleanness, she is not to come into the sanctuary. She's not to come to church. And people coming in the word, they have so many problems with this. But when you get down to it, you have to understand that Yahweh based everything on the Sabbath, and then basically even built a Sabbath of separation into the woman. So this is her time of rest. Go ahead.
Moreover, you shall not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife to defile yourself with her. And you shall not let any of your seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shall you profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh.
Right. It says, you shall not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife. It is amazing that today everybody want to tell you that the law is nailed to the cross. And this is that whole Christian mindset of things. But as soon as they find out somebody slept with their wife, all of a sudden you see a Christian shootout going on. Well, wait a minute. Why are you shooting at him? If there's no law, then that means there's also no judgment for him sleeping with his neighbor's wife. What's the problem? So you see the hypocrisy that's taught to us on Sunday morning, but people like that hypocrisy so they can jump in and out of it as it suits them. It's no law, but it is some law when it comes to them and somebody taking their stuff. But other than that, it's no law. But only when it's their stuff that's missing. Right. That's a problem. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 22. You shall not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination. Neither shall you lie with any beast to defile yourself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion.
Right. You shall not lay with mankind as you do with womankind. It is an abomination. When you talk about, this Sodom and Gomorrah, it is, men with men, and it was a complete abomination unto Yahweh. Now, you mention this to people nowadays, especially churches can't touch this. Churches can't speak of this because they are 501c3, which is a government regulation. This is how, and so that people will understand what's going on. You ever notice how those people run for office or they're in county government and all of a sudden they get locked up? Well, let me explain to you what's getting them locked up. 501c3. People are so happy about, I got this tax exempt status of 501c3. Right. You have just entered yourself into a status whereby they get to look at all your stuff. And then they put forth mandates of what you can do. This 501c3 status says that you cannot speak against anything of the government. So now you have this church, and they tell you that there's a separation between church and state. Now, there's this church who's so-called having the word of the Most High. But now, since the government has passed a law, official law of the land, says that same-sex marriage is legal, you then, as a 501c3 organization, cannot speak against it. See, this is why the representative in whatever town can pretty much get in front of any church organization. You ever notice that? How these people don't go to church, yet when it's time for somebody to run for office, all of a sudden you see a representative standing in front of the church. How's he get up there? How's he get to do that in a place where he's never gone? How does he have that right? So having that status allows for a lot of things. What people don't know is a lot of those church buildings that they have this nice, cute little building fund. They didn't use the building fund. Now, they have a building fund that might have $50,000 in it. But they didn't actually build the building with the building fund. They actually got a grant, a government grant that paid for the building. So they were able to pocket the building fund money. Well, when you get all of those grants, there's a lot of questionnaires that you have to answer. This is how people get locked up. How they get campaign contribution money and then they went to the store and bought a leaf blower and didn't list that right. Now they're guilty of doing something with campaign contributions and now they're arrested. That was 501c3 that got them locked up. So where people feel so, happy about that thing, they need to reconsider that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20. Now, did we go all the way to 23?
Yes.
Okay. Now it says, you shall not lie with any beast to devour yourself therewith, neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Now, people might think that is a double listing there, but there are differences between what a man has the right to do and what a woman has the right to do. This dealing with a man cannot uncover the nakedness of all of those people that we've read. When you deal with a woman was not given the same thing of not uncovering the nakedness of another woman. Women deliver babies. There ain't no deeper nakedness than standing in between somebody's legs watching the baby come out the canal. There ain't no deeper nakedness than that. That was not given to a woman. A man doctor is an abomination. There is no such thing. If a man is delivering your baby, it is an abomination. Point blank. He is not supposed to be standing in between any man's wife's legs watching that baby come out. This is why even in the beginning of this book, when Pharaoh, the man God, Pharaoh walks into a room to worship me, the man God is here. Okay. He himself, wanting to kill the children, said he talked to the midwives. Why? Because ain't no man in there when the baby being born. See, we don't get that. But what they did was they ran all the midwives out of town. They told them, "Oh, you're not licensed. You're not." This is how they do everything. It's classism and racism by paperwork. So they ran these people out of town. So now you don't have a whole lot of midwives anymore. But women deliver babies. Even when I dealt with that and there was a man in the room, it was the nurses that did all the work. The dude came in there and signed some papers. One of them, the dude was such an idiot. He turned around and I watched his lips say to the nurse, "What's the sex of the baby?" And she looked at him in disgust. I said, "Wow, he's a complete and utter idiot." The nurses do all the work, and then this guy come in and get all the money because he's the one who has the so-called doctor certification. And then the last child that was born, we ended up saying, they have this thing now to where there are multiple doctors. And they said, well, we have one man on staff, and we don't know if this particular man will be on staff when it's time for your baby to be born. I said, well, I'm telling you now, I really don't care if he's on staff or not. If he come in there, I'm going to run him out of there. When it came time, they made sure it happened so fast on the last one, they didn't have time to send. Once again, the nurses did all the work. But then they knew to send a woman because I said at that point, I had got to the point where Yahweh convicted me about this is the way this is supposed to be done. Women were not given. So what happens is sometimes people look at this and they say, well, since it says man, it's talking about woman too. No, it ain't. You don't. This word says do not add unto. Ain't nobody asked you to try to interpret nothing. Read what's there. Okay? Don't interpret nothing. See? Women deliver babies. Half the time, go back to your old situations. Remember where even the husband wasn't even in the room? He wasn't even there to come in there and tell him it's a boy, and he out in the lobby celebrating. Woo! He out there screaming. He wasn't even in there. Ain't no man in there. Ain't nothing but women in there. So keep that in mind as you read this. Don't read this and imply this modern way of thinking. Come out of what you think, feel, and believe and read what's there. This is why you have to make sure and be careful who's reading this word to you. Because I got off letting somebody tell me some stuff and I didn't go back and check. And after that, I went to my elder and I asked whatever perverse question I wanted to ask. But the difference is now I know, and them other people done lost their house. So there it is. Leviticus chapter 20. You can sit there and try to be such and such and appear this way and turn around and get some wrong information, or turn around and get no information and cause the damnation of your house. Now, which one is better? Go ahead.
No, my question was about the whole man not being in the room at the time in the old things, and you were talking about the doctor. Now, in modern day, if it's his child, his wife, he can be in the room.
Right.
As long as he's helping to deliver his own child.
It's his wife.
Right.
It's his wife. That's something altogether. That's his nakedness. Just like we just got through reading. It's his naked. Hell, you seen your own nakedness, ain't you? What you do? Not look at yourself? Oh my goodness, I be naked. Let me close my eyes. No, that's your nakedness. That's something altogether different. But when you talk about, most men don't want to see that. Most men, there's some of the big burliest brothers that'll pass out and they sit there and watch a woman. That's some serious stuff, man. That's some serious stuff. Watching childbirth. Some of them are doing birthing in the pool, so the woman will be completely naked in the pool, and there'll be other sisters there. When you talk about Moshe being born, right? You saw what? Pharaoh's daughter was bathing in the water. Who was there with her? It was other women there. Then the girl walked up. They didn't have no problem. A dude walked up in there, they were going to beat him to death. So understand, there's some things there that are set up for Yahweh's purpose, and man don't get to add what he think, feel, and believe about it. So for that reason, people try to imply other things because they read where it says a man cannot do this, a man cannot do this. There are certain things that a man can do that a woman can't. There's certain things that a woman can do that a man can't. You have to understand what those things are. And it doesn't go according to what you think, feel, and believe. Leviticus chapter 20. And let's start that at verse 10.
You know, before we move on, even with my experience and your experiences, when you think back to the first deliveries when the man was in the room, us not having knowledge, he actually made the situation much more stressful.
He did. Every time he made the situation more stressful. And when I tell you, for me to be able to teach this stuff, Yahweh made me, and you know the story of Yahweh bringing it to my attention, and I decide, well, you know, I'm going to deal with that on the next child. Yahweh gave me so much hell. That delivery was the longest delivery ever. Even the follow-up visit was hell, until I realized that Yahweh was like, no, you're not going to tell me later. What I did was equivalent to a son being told by his father, take out the trash. Okay, I'll do it when I feel like it. Which is the equivalent of what I did to Yahweh. He brings something to my attention, and of course, I already got a doctor. This is already a doctor who has delivered a previous child. So I'm thinking there's no way Yahweh want me to change this in the middle. No, that's exactly what Yahweh wanted me to do. Change it in the middle. That's what I was supposed to do. But no, that would be, wrong to do it in the middle. When Yahweh show you, whatever Yahweh show you, if he show it to you at 2:15 on Tuesday, that's when your judgment started, at 2:15 on Tuesday. See, at 2:15 on Tuesday when he showed me, hey boy, take care of this now. No, boy gonna be smart. Our boy gonna wait later. Our boy got his tail kicked. And I realized that later, altered that situation, never had that problem again. Didn't have no long labor, didn't have no nothing. Boom, everything went according. So this is how a man cannot deal with things right and not only cause problems to him, you're causing problems to your wife. Why? That's your nakedness. Your decision affects her. So I'm the reason why all that problem was going on. See, people don't understand what it means to be head of a household. That also means you the one he coming to look for when something go wrong. So don't nobody care what color your drapes are. Take care of the spiritual business and make sure that's in order. Because you the one Yahweh coming to look for. Go ahead.
We're starting at verse 5?
No, we're going to start at verse 10. Leviticus chapter 20, and let's start that at verse 10.
And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer, and the adulteress shall surely be put to death.
Right, the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. It was this situation in the New Testament where those hypocrites brought that woman to Christ to see whether or not he would stone her or not. And they said this woman was caught in the very act of adultery, but they didn't have the man. So it was already hypocrisy. So he said, let he who be without sin cast the first stone. And then they left one by one, leaving the woman all alone. Then he says, woman, where are your accusers? Because she or anybody cannot be condemned without witnesses. So people don't really understand what happened. It wasn't just that he did this thing. What he did, he brought forth, all right, let he that is without sin cast the first stone. Because whoever brings forth the person for judgment, it's those people who have to throw the first stone so that you share in the shedding of blood. And when he put it that way, they all walked away. Then without him being her accuser, he said, I didn't accuse you. So, woman, where are your accusers? She said, I see not any. Well, I don't accuse you either. Go get your life right. Go get your life right. But I'm not accusing you, and your accusers have gone. So if they were going to condemn her, they were supposed to bring the man who was there as well, but they didn't. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And the man that lieth with his father's wife has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion. Their blood shall be upon them.
Right. I mean, this is serious stuff. If a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall be surely put to death. Confusion has been shed in Israel with those things. Go ahead.
If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them.
Right. Now, if you turn around and say this in a 501c3 organization, that organization may have to put you out to keep their status. Go ahead.
And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you.
Right. So when you see those people out in the Midwest who end up marrying a woman and the daughter and all this kind of stuff, this is what the words say. It's supposed to happen to them. They're supposed to be set on fire. Go ahead.
And if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and you shall slay the beast. And if a woman approach unto any beast, and lie down thereto, you shall kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them.
Poor beast. Poor beast, they done tricked the beast. Now the beast got to die too. Why? Because he got confusion in his mind now. See? Now the beast ain't right. Because there's confusion set forth in the beast. It's not in the beast mentality. What man does is make. Remember we went to that zoo and they had that liger? Where they made they crossbred a lion and a tiger. If it be among the lions jump on it. If it go to the tigers jump on it. Because they said, man, what the hell are you? What? They won't do that naturally within themselves. See, right. And that particular thing can't reproduce. So it is not in them to do that confusion. Then you have man offer that confusion to the animal. Yahweh said that animal got to die. Because what happened with confusion is multiplied. So this is why we see television shows that have all of this confusion on it. Because as people begin to see it, people get more desensitized to it, and then it becomes okay. Go ahead.
And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing, and they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his iniquity. And if a man shall lie with a woman having her sickness, and shall uncover her nakedness, he has discovered her fountain, and she has uncovered the fountain of her blood. And both of them shall be cut off from among their people.
Right. This is this law of separation between a man and a woman. When you think back to our grandfathers and grandmothers, that big king size bed, you probably never noticed it until they were cleaning it, that it was actually two beds pushed together. There was his side and there was her side. That was two separate beds. See, people don't think even think, but you'd have to go in there while they were changing the sheets to see. Wait a minute. So that ain't one big mattress. No, that wasn't one big mattress. Those were two mattresses pushed together. The whole bed part looked like it was together. You had to figure that out. You didn't see that. If you never seen them washing clothes, you never figured that out. Go ahead.
And I think even now, if you get one of those beds, the box springs are still two separate beds. So the box springs, actually, you put two box springs together to make one for that big bed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how the situation. That way, they were separate if something happened. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And you shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, nor of your father's sister, for he uncovereth his near kin. They shall bear their iniquity. And if a man shall lie with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall bear their sin. They shall die childless.
Now, let me go ahead and clarify. I'm not telling you brothers to go and put your wife downstairs if she unclean. Let me go ahead and say, because you got, man, we done had, so I done came in contact with some brothers that started feeding a woman Alpo under the door because they didn't deal with it. I was like, hey, man, where you reading that at, man? I understand. We're going to get into some things of why that separation was there. It is the uncovering of the blood. She is set apart for her uncleanness. Now, we don't have to deal with the letter of the law. We're dealing with the spirit of the law, but the concept is still there. We're going to get to that. Go ahead.
And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. You shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments, and do them, that the land, whether I bring you to dwell therein, spew you not out.
Right, that the land spew you not out. Now let's go back. Let's go to Leviticus 15. Leviticus chapter 15, and let's read verses 1 through 29.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When any man has a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue he is unclean.
If any man has a running issue out of his flesh, if a man is secreting any fluids out of himself, it is unclean. Whether that be seed of copulation or he has contracted some disease that causes his flesh to run, he is unclean. Go ahead.
And this shall be his uncleanness in his issue. Whether his flesh run with his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue, it is his uncleanness. Every bed wherein he lieth that has the issue is unclean, and everything wherein he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat that has the issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even.
Right. This is where you're dealing with the letter of the law, and dealing with if you touch somebody, they're unclean. You know, we had a situation where a brother came to church one time, and this was when I think it was right after my elder had passed, and some other people, you know, got up and started teaching, and they were murdering this word, and it was murdering other people. So one brother said he touched his wife, and she was unclean on the way out the door, and then he hugged the people, and then this brother done there cleared out the whole front row of the church saying, well, I touched you, all y'all got to go. And it was like, man, this is clearly, a gross misinterpretation of Yahweh's word. And this happened as soon as my elder passed and other people got up and start teaching this or misteaching this. And this was also coming, people trying to teach family values. And these are people who didn't have families. We're talking about a so-called elder priest who has had multiple divorces. And this is who they have giving them family advice. And I keep telling people you have to consider the source. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And he that toucheth the flesh of him that has the issue shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And if he that has the issue spit upon him that is clean, when he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that has the issue shall be unclean.
Now understand, this is what we pray for. Because we don't know who is unclean and who's not. You go to restaurants, they don't operate by Yahweh's word. You don't know who fixed your food and who has what issue going on. This is what you pray for. This is why when you get to the New Testament, it says, if somebody offer you something, don't ask any questions, nothing doubting if it is offered unto an idol. But if you know it's offered to an idol, even though we know idols are nothing, and we know that, hey, we don't care nothing about that. We know the idol ain't real. But if somebody else see you, the unlearned brother, see you eating at the temple of the idols, they will then be emboldened to go over there and worship them false gods because they see you doing it as a learned brother. But we know that the idol ain't real. So you have to consider that thing, even though a man has that right in that New Testament, in that spirit of the law, understanding that the idol is not real, we still have to be considerate of the unlearned brother who may see you do that. Go ahead.
And whosoever toucheth anything that was under him shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And whosoever he toucheth that has the issue, and has not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even.
Unclean until the even. The day changes hands when the sun goes down. It doesn't change at 12 o'clock midnight. So if you find yourself unclean, this is why we operate this day this way on the Sabbath. When it's Friday, as it is becoming the Sabbath, if you have become unclean throughout the course of that day or that night before and cohabitating between married couples, then you rinse yourself with water, wash your feet, then you have been spiritually cleansed. We can take this same process, go back to Christ at Passover. What happened? He says he would wash their feet. Peter said, you shall not wash my feet. He said, if I don't wash your feet, you have no part in me. He said, well, wash my feet, my face, my hand, wash everything. That look, he that is to be cleansed, save only, needs to wash his feet. This is a spiritual thing. Okay? So separating yourself with water, this is something that has to happen. This cleansing, this is a spiritual thing. This is not a thing of the actual physicality of cleaning. This is a spiritual thing. We just don't see the spiritual part of it in here. It's about carnal washings because they don't understand the spirit part of the law. We get to the New Testament, all of a sudden we have this foot washing that happens at Passover, and it is making a man, cleansing him, and you ain't washing all his whole body. You're only washing the feet. And we are encouraged to do this with one another. So consider that as you read this. I'm trying to help the spiritual growth along with this as well. Go ahead.
Even when you go back to verse 11, right? You sitting there, you worrying about the woman and her uncleanness. But look what it said. You could have shook some brother's hand out on the job or somewhere else, not knowing that he didn't wash his hand while he was unclean, and you have become unclean.
Man, I done been in the bathroom with people and watched them go in the toilet and come out and walk right out of there. And I'm like, I feel sorry for who finna shake his hands.
I've seen a doctor do it and walk back to the
it's like, man, you ain't gonna wash your hands. And man, it dawned on me one time. It was funny because I, go in there, I wash my hands, and I just leave out. And I seen this dude, man, and I mean, straight, cat I used to know years back, straight gangster. I mean, this brother did time, for killing a man. And I watched this brother stand by the door, getting ready to come out the bathroom, and he was just hesitating. And I'm like, what is wrong with this cat? And he was like, ain't no tissue in here to dry your hand. Because they had one of them blowers, right? So he's sitting there like, what? How am I going to get out? I said, I'm standing there watching you, and I'm like, man, you just not too long ago got out of prison. And you sitting here standing by the door, and I'm like, what are you doing? He said, man, all the people who didn't wash their hand, he said, yeah, I washed my hand, but all the dirty hand people still put their hand on that doorknob. I laughed. I had never thought about it. But after that, it started attacking me after I seen it. So then I would have to wash my hand. Then I get an extra piece of paper, and then I open the door. Because all the nasty hand people still touch that doorknob. That doorknob got more germs on it than anything else in that bathroom. But it had never occurred to me till I seen somebody else do it. So just like my brother was saying, we worried about that which we know. The biggest uncleanness comes from the things that you don't know. Go ahead.
Verse 12. Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 12. And the vessel of the earth that he toucheth, which has the issue, shall be broken. And every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water.
Right. Now this is one of those things that if the letter of the law, we'd all be broke. It says, and whomsoever he touches that have an issue have not rinsed his hands in water and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, he shall be unclean. And the vessel of earth that he touched, which has the issue, this is all the stuff you eat out of. So now you got to go break all your plates if they touch the plates. Now, what you gonna do after that? So this is how you have to understand what that letter of that law is. Okay? We're not gonna go and break all our cups because somebody unclean touched the cups. This is what prayer is about. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 13. And when he that has an issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and bathe his flesh in running water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to him 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and come before Yahweh unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them unto the priest.
Right. 7 days, they're set apart. The 8th day, they are cleansed. And understand, the day changes hands at the even. So you have to consider, sometimes people are actually going an extra day, not knowing how to count those days, but an extra day ain't going to hurt you. 1 day shorter will hurt you. 1 day longer won't hurt you at all. Go ahead.
And the priest shall offer them, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahweh for his issue. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water, and be unclean until the even.
Now, if a man's seed of copulation, it is a man that carries the seed. A woman has an egg. Now, what makes a woman unclean is the issue of blood. This man's seed that goes out from him is what makes him unclean. All right? And he shall wash his flesh in water, the water of separation. See, this water is the cleansing thing. You notice it don't say anything about soap. People don't consider certain things. It ain't saying that about soap.
Right.
It's the water. See, in that we don't see the spiritual nature of this. We think this is all about carnal washings. See, people don't see the spiritual part in this, so they miss it. So, a man's seed of copulation go out from him. He is unclean until the sun goes down. He washes himself with water. Sun goes down, he's clean. Go ahead.
And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the even. The woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the even.
Now, understand, it was the man's seed that made the woman unclean. There was nothing about the act of cohabitation between a man and a woman that the woman causes uncleanness. There's absolutely nothing in the woman that causes uncleanness other than blood or any other issue if she's contracted something from him or something like that. But when it comes to the seed, that seed, his seed, is what made him unclean and what made her unclean. So she can't make herself unclean, but he makes them both unclean. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days. And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even.
Now understand, at the time that this is written, what they do when a woman is set apart for uncleanness, this is why they used to use the old term, the woman's on her rag. Because what they didn't have any sanitary napkins. They had cloths, unused rags, where this woman might have made a dress. They keep those little leftover parts for when the woman had a cycle. This is what the women would use. Well, that not being a exact science, that may have leaked. So there was a situation of separation there just in case it did. All right. So as you start reading, you'll notice that it says it's dealing with all of this unclean part, and it starts saying if it's dealing with this blood that may leak, and this is what you have to deal with here. You have seed of copulation, which is in all senses the start of a life that never happened. When you deal with a woman's menstruation, that is the egg of reproduction that never happened. So understand the uncleanness and what it's all about. This is about life not coming forth. See, people take this and they really don't understand what they're dealing with. This is why you have to be careful who you let teach you this stuff. Because they'll teach this in the wrong order and in the wrong way, and you're not understanding. During menstruation, this is a dead egg that she's passing. This is not the same as somebody who cuts their arm and bleeds. It is not the same. That's why people don't get it and they're upset. Why can't a woman come to church when this is happening? This is a dead reproductive item that is passing. The seed of copulation is a reproductive issue that has not fertilized anything. The issue gets a little bit clearer now when you put things in its perspective. But you let the wrong person teach you this, and you're going to be out howling at the moon. You can believe that. Go ahead.
Same token of why we don't have dead bodies in the sanctuary.
Exactly. They don't. We don't do funerals and have no bodies in it. Now they do it on Sunday church. They roll the body right up to the altar and talk about how the person in heaven. Go ahead.
And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even. Verse 20. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean.
That is letter of the law. Go ahead.
And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And if it be on her bed, or anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean until the even.
This is the intent of all the writing. And if it be on her bed. See, this is what the intent. So if you just avoid those things, then you won't come down to this. What Yahweh does is he puts several layers to protect people in sin. Because there's this thing of fornicating and adultery. But before that, there's covetousness. Now, what is covetousness? Covetousness is having a desire for something that does not belong to you. So, Yahweh basically gives you a speed bump. You are coveting something that belongs to somebody else. You want somebody else's this or that. If you deal with yourself with the coveting, because the coveting is only a thought. But what happened is those thoughts are living entities that if you continue to deal with them, they may bring forth other things. So if you deal with yourself with the thought, you can stop there at the thought. See, Yahweh gives you some speed bumps that this may slow you down. So if you hit this speed bump and you realize, hey, if I don't slow down, I'm finna smash that wall over there. So this is one of those things when we deal with how Yahweh has things set up. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 15 and verse 24. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed wherein he lieth shall be unclean. And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days, out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation. She shall be unclean. Every bed whereon she lieth, all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation. And whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean, as the uncleanness of her separation. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. But if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days. After that she shall be clean.
After that she shall be clean. Being separated those 7 days. So we don't have to deal with the letter of this law, but that separation part is still in effect. That is a spiritual thing. When you deal with this seed of copulation and the unfertilized egg, this is about life. So this separation is something altogether different. Now, if you notice, we've read all of these things about who can engage in cohabitation or sex together. You notice not one thing we've read says how. Yahweh didn't get into personal business. What Yahweh did was tell you who you can cohabitate with. Let me let's go to Hebrews chapter 13. So you have to consider, because I've heard this. I got caught up into to this before, being early and young in the word, and you go across that internet looking at some of these self-proclaimed teachers who have not been taught and have not been called to be a teacher. They teach all kind of stuff, saying, "Oh, if you kiss your wife here, you have committed a sin. If you kiss your husband there," you notice we ain't read none of that. And this book says, if you add unto this word or take away, you shall receive the plagues. Yahweh didn't tell you about that. What he told you was who you can engage with, not how. So these are things that we have to consider. let's read Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 4.
Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers Elohim will judge.
Right. So the marriage bed is honorable in all. Yahweh did not set any lines of boundaries in between the marriage bed. What the whole key is the covenant. Sex can be legally had between people where there is a covenant. So then you have to deal with who can make covenants and how the covenants roll. That's what that is all about. There is no so-called clean sex or dirty sex. I can tell you dirty sex real quick. Sex without a covenant is dirty sex. There it is. That's a short class. Thank y'all for coming out. God bless. Good night. If that's all we were going to do, do a class on dirty sex. Okay. No covenant. Dirty sex. Thank y'all for coming out. That's it. That'd be the quickest class ever. That's it. That's where the dirt come in at. Where's your covenant? You don't have one, then there's something wrong with that. See, with Hebrew Israelites, ain't no such thing as no girlfriend and boyfriend. You either married or you fornicating. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right? We don't have no girlfriends. We don't have no boyfriend. See, I done went to places where I walked in the door and the dude was like, yeah, this is my girlfriend. I was like, and you been in the word how long? Brother been in the word 10 years. Talking about this is his girlfriend. Hey, man, what? Hey, day number 2, I knew, wait a minute, bro. I don't think that's right. How you been here 10 years and you got a girlfriend? Right. But see, that's that whoremonger activity. That's why it says adulterers and whoremongers will Yahweh judge. Okay? So these are things that we have to consider there. Let's go to Exodus chapter 22.
I was just saying, with the girlfriend or the boyfriend, that means you've never seen each other's nakedness, okay?
That's what it's supposed to mean. That ain't what it mean today.
Then that would be betrothed.
Right. That would be being betrothed to be married is what that is. What it say about Joseph and Miriam? They were betrothed. So there was an agreement that they would marry, but they had not lain together. See, people don't understand what marry means. People think marry is the ceremony. No. Marry is that thing you did when you turned the lights off. See, a whole lot of people that got married many times. And they think, you see that certificate on the wall? That's my marriage certificate. Oh, no. Your marriage certificate is in your laundry room. They getting washed right now. Right. No. Yahweh don't play those kind of games. Exodus chapter 22, and let's start that at verse 16.
And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife.
Okay, if he entice a maid that is not betrothed to be married, if she's not betrothed, there's not an agreement that she's supposed to be married, he lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. What do you think they used to have back in the day when they called them shotgun weddings? That was the daddy done found out you done got his girl pregnant. Now he know for a fact you done laid with her. And then he come and put that shotgun up to your face. You gonna make my daughter an honorable woman? Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. There it is. Shotgun wedding. And it's real quick. We ain't spending no money. You do, she do, y'all already did, we done. Get on out of here. Now it's time you get a job, boy. You got a baby on the way. Where you think that come from? That come from, he know for a fact you done laid with her because she pregnant. And then he pulled out that shotgun. There it is. It says, and then it says, a man entice a maid. A maid is a virgin. Understand that. So, sisters who done been round the block, up the block, down the street, and round the corner can't turn around and bring no brother, because I done seen people do this. Then bring a brother back to, a priest's office. Praise, he had to marry me. He has uncovered my nakedness. he must marry me. Hold on, sister. Hold on. How many people uncovered your nakedness before he got there? Now, had you just got a baptism? Well, you ain't no virgin. Then you need to go to that other dude who uncovered your nakedness and say he need to marry you. Not this dude. See, he 15 times down the line. No, you can't make him marry you. But see, people like to play with this word and use it as it fits their particular situation. And that is not going to work. Go ahead.
Verse 17. If her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins.
If her father utterly refused to give her, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. The way they have things now is that I had this lady say this thing to me. Oh, you have daughters? You better be saving up some money because you're going to have to pay for a lot of weddings. And I was sitting there like, you heathen. That's how that go in heathen land. Let me tell you how it go in real Hebrew land. He bring me money. That's my daughter. I ain't paying you. You paying me. Some little dude show up at my, I love your daughter. She beautiful. That's all fine and dandy. Where your goats? You got some chickens? Because I love chickens. Where your chickens? No, man. See, the way they got things here twisted, the father is paying. That's not the way this go. You pay the family. What did they do when they went and saw Rebecca and all? They put jewels on her arm, on the other people's arm. He came with a gift to them. The father does not pay to have a wedding. The man's family who's trying to get that woman in their house, that's who pays. See, people got it all twisted. They got it all twisted. But I ain't have time to sit there and explain this to this this heathen. I was like, right, okay. Right. That's how y'all do that. That's how y'all do that. That's not how we operate. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 22.
And when you look at it, it's only fair because you're minusing a helping hand in my household.
Exactly.
And you adding one to your household.
And I'm supposed to pay you to take away from my house? What they do that? What they do? What kind of math is that? What kind of math is that? Kind of math gonna get you kept back? Something wrong with that math right there. There's something seriously wrong with that. But when we take hold to the ways of the daughter of Babylon, we then think that this is the way things are supposed to go. Deuteronomy chapter 22. I tell you what, I want to jump and read verse 5.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 5.
Yeah, start at verse 5.
The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all that do so are abomination unto Yahweh your Elohim.
Right. What we don't understand is the way that this society has things set up. Remember, there used to be a time where they said, I wear the pants in my house. You go back far enough, you don't find women in pants. See, this is the thing that we don't understand. This is not our culture for a woman to wear pants. If you back up, there were police women, and the police women had on skirts. We don't even remember. It's amazing how fast Babylon erases things out of your mentality. This is not our culture. So when you talk about that, a man wearing a woman's garment and a woman wearing a man's garment is both abomination. So there are many people that, thinking upon this Christian mindset that they're going to walk up unto Christ in their abominations. You walk up to Christ in them pants as a woman, and you might die right where you at. You need to understand how to approach unto righteousness and understand how you supposed to look when you approach unto righteousness. But when you deal with Babylon, Babylon says this stuff is okay. Women wear pants even to church now. This would have got, Why you think they over there killing people in the Middle East? They say, wait a minute, man. Y'all bringing them Western mindset and culture over here. See? So they start fighting the women going to school, and people say, oh, man, they evil. No. What they figured out was the woman go to school, that ain't the problem. The problem is what they learn in them books. Then all of a sudden you turn around and the woman walking down the street with pants on. The woman walking down the street doing all, whoa. Where you get this from? Oh, it was in them books that they sent us. Next thing you know, they burning all the books. They said, wait a minute now. No, we didn't read all them books. We didn't know that stuff was in there. I tell you what, blow up the whole school. See, now they go to the extreme with it because they don't know how to fix that. But they've taken these things that are against that culture. We can go in the New Testament and read about a woman having her head covered. I tell you what, go by any one of them whorehouses that they call churches on Sunday and see how many people got their head covered. And that's in the New Testament. Right. It lets you know that people going to deal with what they want to deal with out of this book. Jump to verse 13.
You know what's interesting about that, though? You know, we get a lot of, well, you know, I could never, and this and that. And it's like you're saying, it's a culture. If you're raised in that culture, then it wouldn't be strange to you.
Right.
If we look back at the East and the Middle East, those people still maintain a culture. Even when they come here, they still maintain a culture. I was watching a car the other day, and there's two Muslim brothers in the car with their head coverings, and I could tell they're Middle Easterns. But then I look at it as like, wow, look how you come here, but you still kept your culture, despite who might want to look at you crazy.
Right. And that's what we look at. How somebody else look at us crazy. Now, understanding, you go to the wrong place dressed outside of culture, and they might not just look at you crazy. They might do something to you because you're walking outside of culture. Jump to verse 13.
If any man take a wife, and go in unto her, and hate her, and give occasions of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid.
So what he's saying is, I came to this woman and found her not a virgin. There are tokens of virginity. If a woman there's a cloth that is spread under the woman. There is a hymen that is popped, and it secretes blood when a woman first has her virginity taken from her. That is the token of the damsel's virginity. Go ahead.
Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city and the gate.
Now, this is the part of the future kingdom that I'm not looking forward to. It says the father of the damsel and the mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity. So at the point of marriage, and he goes in unto this woman that he is married, the mother and the father is without, that they may get the token of this girl's virginity when this union is done. I ain't looking forward to that part. But if he raise up a false name against this woman, there are the token of this damsel's virginity right there. Go ahead.
And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he has given occasions of speech against her, saying, I found your daughter not a maid. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. And the elders of that city shall take that man and chastise him. And they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he has brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all his days. But if this thing be true, and the tokens of virginity be not found for the damsel, then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone, and the men of the city shall stone her with stones that she die, because she has wrought folly in Israel to play the whore in her father's house. So shall you put evil away from among you.
Right. So, it's not a good thing for a woman to pretend that she's one way and marry a man without being upfront about what her past dealings are. It may get you killed in the kingdom. So you might not want to play with that. Go ahead.
If a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shall you put away evil from Israel.
Right. This is why it was a wicked institution when they brought the woman to Christ and said, we found this woman in the act of adultery, but they didn't bring the man. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't do nothing to the woman. He knew it was hypocrisy from the beginning. You can't bring the woman without bringing the man. Go ahead.
You know, back to verse 21, you brought this up before when it says they would stone her till she died. That's where we get the understanding of why Joseph was willing to put Mary away privately.
Right. Because he knew that they would stone her if they said, okay, she was betrothed to her husband and she done laid with a man because she got pregnant. So he's like, look, I don't want you to die, but this ain't right. You know, so I'm not going to say nothing about it, but you pregnant. I can see that you pregnant and I know I ain't touched you. So, and then the angel got to come tell him, hey, calm down, bro. This is of the Holy Ghost. Go ahead.
Verse 23. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto an husband, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, then you shall bring them both unto the gate of that city, and you shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. So shall you put away evil from among you.
Now, you see how this judgment is laid out. It is being in the city. So the location of this matters, that this damsel that is a virgin was betrothed to somebody, and somebody has lain with her. Being in the city, somebody should have heard her scream. Keep reading.
But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die.
Right. So now it is assumed that because it is in the field, if she did scream, nobody would know. So then she is protected. So you have to consider, when poor people so-called rape somebody, the brother find her in the park, or, beat her or do something. Don't you find it amazing that how the rich ball players, every time they're accused of rape, it's always 3 o'clock in the morning at their hotel room? Sister, what was you doing in somebody else's hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning who you just met? And why didn't the neighbors hear no screaming? Right. You shall put both of them to death. No, you're lying. See, the location matters because Yahweh has automatically put, okay, wait a minute now. This matters. So you have to consider these women who claim that they're raped 3 o'clock in the morning at a hotel room with a guy that they just met 2 hours ago. What the hell were you doing there? You don't know him? Why was you there at 3 o'clock in the morning? Right. You got to wear some of that judgment. Why you put yourself in that situation? Go ahead.
Yeah, I grew up around a lot of Somalians, and them saying virgins till they got married was very serious.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some of the females, they would actually, if they did go out and lose their virginity and it was time for them to get married, they would pay to go to the doctor to have them do something so that her cherry would,
Right.
But when I lived in Ethiopia, a lot of the Christians there were still virgins at 37 years old, 20-something years old, and they didn't believe in premarital sex.
Mm-hmm.
The men with whoever they wanted to marry, they were either already promised to them or they would take them out and, court them for a long time. And there was no sex exchange, this was abnormal to them. This wasn't a normal practice.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I bring that up is because they're always saying Africa has the most AIDS in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that can't be true because most of the countries in Africa are Muslim. Or most of the cultures there don't believe in premarital sex. So these things are just lies that they're not really showing people that they're still the purest people in those regions. They're still practicing this way of life.
They still have culture, but there are other issues that happen with dealing with Africa. You have those Germans who came through and offered those vaccines. that caused a lot of problems in Africa. And they came in and gave them people all them shots. All right, those the after World War II, United States and other countries brought in the German doctors because of all the wicked experiments that they were doing and making weird concoctions. They actually protected some of the Nazi people. They gave them different identities, everything, and brought them to the States. Now teach us some of your weird medicine that you was using on those people. Part of those are those vaccines that they went through, because they come through there, give all them people vaccines, and all of a sudden everybody starts having diseases and issues that they didn't have before. That's where a whole lot of problems came into play with those vaccines. So a lot of things that we adopt from the daughter of Babylon ends up causing us some issues. You have to think about, there are third world countries that these people don't have diabetes and have the issues. They don't eat like we eat. They don't have the issues. How these people live in, places that don't have any of the stuff that we have, and yet they are healthier than we are.
Just like AIDS. AIDS can only live or thrive, HIV, if a person has mucus, which is caused from milk and the meats and things, an alkaline diet. There are villages, there's certain areas in Africa where they still eat vegetarian diet. They can't catch HIV.
Well, when you deal with stuff about most black people are lactose intolerant to start with. We picked up a lot of this from the European way of dealing with things, which is the same thing that we've dealt with here in dealing with relationships. The way that the Christians do things is they deal with this one marriage, but they just do it over and over and over again. And it's the same concept of, okay, you'll get married one time, and then you get married another time, and then another time, and then another time. And they just do this over and over and over again. This, our thing, we picked this up from dealing with them. It wasn't our culture to do things like this. This is in our culture. What's written here is our culture. We have picked up those things from being around other nations. Finish reading that, brother, because I'm going to get to something else there.
Verse 26. But unto the damsel you shall do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death, for as when a man riseth against his neighbor, and slayeth him, even so is this matter. For he found her in the field, and he betrothed, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that layeth with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her, he may not put her away all his days. A man shall not take his father's wife, nor discover his father's skirt.
All right, let's go to, I tell you what, jump to chapter 23, and I want you to read verse 17.
There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel.
Right. See, now, when you talk about this man who claimed that he got with this woman and found her not a maid, he found her not a virgin, it was automatically then assumed that she was a whore. Because she had then been with a man out of wedlock, she was automatically in whore status. We're talking, it may have been one encounter, but the fact that she has married this man believed she was a maid. If you make that kind of accusation, it is a very, very strong accusation. So then you have, there shall be no whore among the daughters of Israel. And a sodomite, we know what Sodom and Gomorrah was about. these men with men. Now, we also read, even in the New Testament, and even among this thing, that there were women with women. And we know that when it comes down to covenant, the only thing about dirty sex is who can you engage with within a covenant. A man and a man cannot have a covenant. A woman and a woman does not have a covenant by themselves. There cannot be a covenant within that. So you have to consider those things. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 21. Deuteronomy chapter 21, and let's read this. Let's start at verse 10.
When you goeth forth to war against your enemies, and Yahweh your Elohim hath delivered them into your hands, and you have taken them captive, and seeth among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that you would have her to your wife, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails. And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in your house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that you shall go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be your wife.
Right. This first of all, a woman's hair was given to her for her glory. This is why a woman is supposed to have her hair covered. That is also her husband's glory. Being that this was a captive woman, she was married to somebody else, she is to stay in your house a whole month, but you are not to touch her. She may be pregnant from the last situation. Her glory from the previous marriage is removed, and pare her nails, and then she begins again. Go ahead.
And it shall be, if you have no delight in her, then you shall let her go whither she will.
Now, consider this. Her former husband is dead. Go ahead.
But you shall not sell her at all for money. You shall not make merchandise of her, because you have humbled her. If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he has, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn.
Now, of course, the part that stands out to everybody is verse 15 in the beginning. If a man have two wives. Now, nobody had a problem with them issuing this same-sex marriage, but what's written in this book, that a man can have more than one wife, people have a serious problem with that. But there's always been more women than there are men. And when you talk about being able to sustain a family, Yahweh has put things in his law for his purpose. But what happens is man has issue when it comes down to what Yahweh has set forth. But that being said, you have to also understand that we are in captivity. We are in captivity because we did not do the things that we were supposed to do. So, in being dealing with what we were supposed to have, Yahweh said, be fruitful and multiply. Then being in captivity, part of that captivity was that your wives shall be given to other people. Your kids shall be taken captive. You shall not enjoy them. So when you talk about why we have so many issues in the house, this is a part of the curses of Deuteronomy 28. So it is a very difficult thing to have a multiple marriage situation here in captivity. If there's a multiple marriage situation here in captivity, you better believe that there has to be some kind of purpose for it, that Yahweh is glorified for that situation to flourish. I won't say it's sin, because it's written in Yahweh's law that it can happen. But you do have to understand that this is captivity. Let's go to John chapter 4.
You know, bro, earlier we were talking about the whole polygamy and polygyny. And you were talking about, in that situation, that's where the wife can also have multiple husbands. And we see here where they're talking about the man with the 2 wives, and then they're talking about inheritance. And I've had people ask this question before, well, why do women can't have 2 husbands? In this situation, who would the child belong to if she became pregnant, and who would be giving up their inheritance?
Exactly. Where would the land go? It is absolute confusion. Whose kid is that? How do you separate any land without knowing who the father is? Because the seed follows the male. The woman, what do we read? The man has seed of copulation. The woman has this egg that passes. So the seed belongs to him. Okay? Go ahead.
Not only that, but the man is the head of the house. Who would be that woman's head? That's confusion.
Yeah, that's a monster if it got 2 heads. You ever heard that them saying it's a 2-headed monster? A 2-headed monster is utter confusion. Who's going to ultimately be responsible when there's a problem? Who does Yahweh come looking for? Is it this head or that head?
And it says, let every woman have her own husband. That's confusion.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem there. But let's read verse 17. You got something, sister?
Yeah, I have 2 different things I wanted to comment on.
All right. You gotta talk loud. We got internet, and we have a call line, and I'm pretty sure it's very difficult to hear you. So speak up.
In this day and age, most people are not really guided properly by their parents. So people having multiple husband and wives before they finally meet that mate, I mean, that's more understandable. Most parents don't really take the time to say, well, hey, it should be this way or that way, or try to guide their children. So like a lot of daughters that are, more subconscious about, okay, I don't want to sleep with multiple men. Well, let me get married young.
Right.
And then they don't know themselves, and then they figure out later on, well, I don't really want to be with this guy. I don't really know him. He's not for me. But they're not for each other, and so they divorce. Or like today in this day and age, we got a lot of men going to war, and then they come back home and they're all messed up, and then the wife is like, well, that's one thing. And then the second thing was about the hair. And like how I've been taught as a Hebrew is that when a woman is not with her husband, she's supposed to cover her hair. But when her husband is there, her protection is there, so she doesn't have to cover her hair. So I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, no, we I know that in the things that the Jewish do, there's a separation between the hair covering issue there. But we'll I'm gonna go and read something to you for that. Let us read this John 4 and verses 7 through 19, and we'll get to that first statement, and then we'll get to the second one.
Verse 7. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahshua saith unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that you, being a Yehudi, ask drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For ye the Yehudis have no dealings with the Samaritans. Yahshua answered and said unto her, If you knew the gift of Elohim, and who it is that said to you, Give me to drink, you would have asked of him, and he would have given you living water. The woman saith unto him, Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then have you that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Yahshua answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst.
Now, of course, he's speaking on a whole spiritual level that has absolutely nothing to do with regular water itself. He is talking about entering into this word. Go ahead.
But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman saith unto him, Sir, Give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw.
Right. She's still thinking on a carnal level. He's on something altogether different. He's talking over her head. Go ahead.
Yahshua saith unto her, Go, call your husband, and come hither.
Right. Why? Because it is written that a husband has the right to disannul a vow made by the wife on the day that he hears it. So this woman would then be entering into a vow, entering into the gospel. So before you can enter into this, go and call your husband. Go ahead.
The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Yahshua said unto her, You have well said, I have no husband. For you have had 5 husbands, and he whom you now have is not your husband. And that saith you truly.
Right. So consider, this is the New Testament. This is Yohanan chapter 4. This is Christ. This is in red writing. She says, I don't have a husband. He says, you have rightly said that what you have said. For you have had 5 husbands, and he whom you now have. So that means she married to somebody now. In the sense of what marriage means. So she's engaged with somebody sexually. So she said, I'm not married. He said, you've answered that correctly. Because you done had 5 husbands. So what was he counting? He wasn't counting marriage certificates. See? He counted that unholy matrimony. That's what he counted. All of them situations that she's had, he said, you have had 5 husbands, and he whom you now have, he ain't your husband. Why? Because the first one was your husband.
Still living.
Right. See? The first one is still living. That's your husband. So this one you got now ain't your husband, and the other ones you had ain't your husband. Why? Because that first one was your husband. And see, this is that thing, not being raised up in culture. We get outside of that and then think that, hey, well, it's the way things are. Me and you was talking about this sometime back about how marriage certificates used to say, as long as you live, to death do you part, that this was a legal marriage. It didn't even give you that situation for divorce. Consider that. Go ahead.
And there really isn't the room for it. I mean, when we get to Romans 7:2, it says that a woman is married to a man as long as he lives.
He lives.
Right. As long as he lives. Well, I mean, if she dies, then of course she's free. But as
Right.
long as he lives. So, it's the thing where people don't understand that marriage is a contractual arrangement. And we understand what a contract is in legal terms.
Right.
But we act like we don't understand it when it comes down to marriage. It's not optional. And because there's difficulty in marriage or situations that are complicated, doesn't give you the freedom to break that contract. You're still responsible. And it's the thing that we're not teaching. And of course, being in this land, in Babylon, we're undergoing these curses. That is the thing that, we're suffering, where we're out of culture. We're assimilating into somebody else's culture. So, we've grown to like what they do. But, our people weren't doing these things back in the day.
Right.
I remember when women used to, stay with men for the longest. You hear people in your family talking about it. They married for life. So it's this new generation that
Right.
has come up under assimilation that is doing these things and think that has always been that way. It hasn't always been that way.
Right. And when you deal with how things go here, this is why it is very important for the culture. What happened is, like the sister said, people not understanding or not growing up and being taught. They are getting married, young, not understanding what that is. Not understand, wait a minute. If you have a culture and the person you trying to marry does not have a culture, how that supposed to work? You might well go ahead and plan that divorce. You walk on the right side of the street, they walk on the left side of the street. How the hell that gonna work? Now you gonna begin like that. Okay? You like the sun, they like the moon. Wait a minute. So you go over here and worship, and he go over there and worship. How long you think that's gonna work? See, It's this whole thing about being unequally yoked. You know what I find amazing? In the Middle East, parents endow people to be married. You know what's funny? Those marriages stay longer than our marriages, and we pick our own people. Now imagine that. Now how that work? That this was an arranged marriage, and they stay together longer than people who made their own choice. Because the parents is sitting there looking, hey, I know that family right there, and I know how they going to raise that boy. And then that family is saying, hey, I know that family, and I know how they going to raise that girl. They say, don't mess with that girl down there. What did they say in here? He said what? Do not let my son marry the daughters of the people of Canaan. Do not let my son marry none. Go back to his mama's folk. They raised good women over there. Go all the way over there. Take all this money, these jewels, these things that I have acquired. You notice it with the man giving the gift, right? Okay. So he was stacking up money for his son to get a wife. Right. So go back over there and get a wife for my son. Do not let my son marry. Why? They don't have the same culture. And if they don't have the same culture, they're going to pull you away from yours. That's what the whole thing was about. Because there were foreign women when you get into to Ruth. And you start reading about Naomi and her daughter-in-law. This woman wasn't an Israelite. But what? She spiritually took hold of Israel. You see what I'm saying? Even without a husband, she said, look, my husband dead, but you my mama-in-law, I'm going with you. And your people shall be my people. That woman is now in the lineage of the Messiah. And she wasn't Israelite naturally, but spiritually she was Israel, even without a husband. So you consider the problem with us marrying outside of our people, the biggest part was culture. That's why Yahweh said, do not marry these strange women, for they're going to turn your heart against me, because you're going to start worshiping their God. Same thing happened with women. They look at a guy, oh, he fine. Oh, he cute. Right. He worshiped the devil. Now, how long you think they're going to last? Go ahead.
Christianity has been the biggest curse to us of all because, you know, even though these examples are in the Old Testament and have we been reading them as though they were applicable, it might have taught us something. But Christianity is the thing that taught us that that wasn't applicable for this time.
Right.
And, you know, that Christian doctrine, you know, they do it how they see fit. So it has kind of helped to shape our minds in that these things no longer apply and you can do it like you want. It has given us that freedom. So we thought, that assimilation. And it's really been a curse to us as far as our culture is concerned because we're so far away from it.
Well, you have to think. The hypocrisy of Christianity still tells you that a man can't have more than one wife, but yet the hypocrisy of Christianity, because the law has said same-sex marriage is okay. Do you understand that they are now preaching the term that they use now on Sunday church is no condemnation. See, you have to learn the terms. No condemnation means that they're not condemning any same-sex marriages. But what they're not telling you is that they can't because of their 501c3 affiliation. They will lose their tax exempt status if they do. That's the part that they're neglecting to tell you. But the new term is no condemnation. Right. See, you have to learn how to read beyond the terms. Now, what's happening here in Yohanan chapter 4, starting right here at verse 17 and verse 18, for you've had 5 husbands. This concept is in the Christian church because it is called serial monogamy. Serial monogamy is the marriage of one person just repeatedly over and over. And that is pushed as okay in the Christian church. But this is the New Testament, and Christ has a problem with that. Let's go. You know what? Before I go to that, the one where, well, one of them is several of them. where a woman is married to her husband as long as he lives.
Romans 7:2.
Is that Romans 7:2? Let's go there. And then we'll get to the covering. Go to Romans 7 and verse 1. That was a good point that you mentioned there. Because understand now, this is the New Testament that people claim they go by. But then when you read the things out of the New Testament, then you find out, wait a minute, you don't believe in the Old Testament, you don't believe in the New Testament, you don't believe in no Testament. There's a problem there. Romans 7, and let's start there at verse 1.
Know you not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law has dominion over a man as long as he liveth. For the woman which has an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth.
Right. See, what did Yahweh say about the children of Israel? He says, I am married unto you. See, so when my elder died and all of a sudden people began to want to change all of the things. One brother had made a covenant. All of a sudden, he said some other brother gave him the right to disannul that covenant. Now, he had made a covenant that he would be a eunuch. Next thing I know, the brother married with kids. Wait a minute, man. Didn't you make a vow? I told you, when you was doing that, you wasn't no eunuch because you kept looking at every woman that wasn't by. Eunuchs don't do that. If he didn't have no desire to be with a woman, okay? So I don't know who you were trying to please doing that. But even at that rate, my elder died. Yahweh didn't. So wasn't no vows taken away. The same vows that I made my vows with Yahweh. I didn't make my vows with my teacher. So when my teacher died, it didn't free me of any vows that I had made. It didn't free me of any obligations, the things that I said I was going to do, the things that I promised out of my lips that I would do in serving Yahweh. Turn it off. There he. So we have to understand. Yahweh says, I'm married unto you. Right? Okay. Our husband still lives. So I'm bound because I made a covenant to Yahweh. Go ahead.
But if the husband be dead, she's loose from the law of her husband. So then if, while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress.
She shall be called an adulteress because she married to another man and her husband still living. Go ahead.
But if her husband be dead, she's free from that law, so that she's no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, you also are become dead to the law by the body of the Mashiach, that you should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto Elohim.
Right. This is what the power of that baptism does. But if you play with it, it'll get you killed too. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Yeah, thank you. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, and let's start at verse 6. I tell you what, start at verse 4.
Every man praying or prophesying have his head covered, dishonoreth his head.
So, this is why when we pray, we remove our head covering. When you read these things, you have to understand the difference between a man and a priest. When we go back to what is written in the law concerning the priests are to have head coverings. The high priest has 2 head coverings, and the high priest does not remove his head covering at all. Go ahead.
But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven.
So, when we pray, the man removes his head covering, the woman prays with her head covered. Go ahead.
You know, to touch on what she was saying earlier about what she was taught, it doesn't say a married woman or unmarried woman. It says every woman. That means at some point, all these women's head were covered, married or unmarried. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered.
So either be covered or cut the hair off. If you don't want to be covered, cut it all off. Now this is New Testament. This is New Testament where everybody say they believe in. Do me a favor and go just drive by one of them whorehouses on Sunday. Wait until they come out. See how many head coverings of shaved women you see. Right. Go ahead.
For a man indeed ought not to cover his head.
Right. And I tell people what's the difference. You have to know the difference between a man and a priest. The children of Israel were called to be a kingdom of priests. There is the Levitical priesthood. Then there is the priesthood of the children of Israel, who will then go out and teach the rest of the nations. That's why they are a kingdom of priests.
Which includes women.
Go ahead.
For as much as he is the image of and glory of Elohim, but the woman is the glory of the man.
Mm-hmm.
For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man.
Right. So there is a separation there. People want to say, and they read these things, whatever Yahweh says for the man, the same thing is for the woman. No, it's not. There's a separation. There's certain things that men can do that women can't do. There's certain things that women can do that men can't do. See? So we can't get twisted in that. Let's go to Exodus chapter 21. Exodus chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10.
Exodus chapter 21 and verse 1. Now these are the judgments which you shall set before them. If you buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years you shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing.
Everything is based on this setup of 7. Go ahead.
If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife also shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him on to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever.
That's what an earring is for. That's what an earring is. And all. Go ahead.
And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who have betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her.
You see that there's a certain amount of weight. Once you have lain with that woman, there's a certain way that you have to deal with her. See? And that's what people don't want to deal with today. See, what people want is free sex. So they can go off, do whatever they want to do and go to the next place. It ain't set up like that. Go ahead.
And if he had betrothed her unto himself, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage he shall not diminish.
Right. So, if he takes him another wife, her food, her clothing, her duty of marriage, this is her being intimate with her husband, shall not diminish. So if you don't have the ability to take care of all of those things, then you have a problem. And this is one of those things, especially when you find new brothers that come and find out that this thing is in the word. All of a sudden, oh, they swear, they go, oh man, Yahweh has called me to have another wife. Hell, you ain't got peace with the one you got now. So you tell me Yahweh multiplied your confusion. He gave you one confused woman, and then you say he gave you another one too? Right. What's the purpose? How is Yahweh benefited in that situation? And this is things that people don't want to deal with. And sometimes you might not know that answer right away, depending on how Yahweh deal with you. But you have to consider some things when you read. Knowing the culture, you have to consider some things. You don't just run out and do things just because you find that it is allowed in the law. See, what people don't understand, there are things in the law that are mandatory, and then there are things that are liberties. There is no definite thing that anybody has to do a liberty. A liberty is something that he allows. You can't come and go home talking about, yeah, I got to do this because it's in the law. No, them lies and propaganda. Them lies and propaganda. That's not what it says, that there is a liberty there. That doesn't mean that you have to do that. So you have to consider some things here. But you have those that'll say, hey, this is, the New Testament time, and you don't have to deal with that. Let's go to Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 23 through 33. You got something, brother?
Yeah, I was just touching on verse 10 again in Exodus there. Like you talk about the brothers who, I can run out and do this. And also in that diminishing of art, if she's used to a certain lifestyle that you have afforded her, you need to be able to continue her with that lifestyle even though you picked somebody else up.
Oh, yeah. You can't give her a steak a day and now she get one steak a week. Because, somebody else got the other steak. No. You just said that you were going to buy double steaks. What the problem is? Right. But see, what happened is, brothers read that Isaiah, where it says 7 women shall grab hold of one man, saying that, give us your name and take away this reproach. A real daughter of Israel shouldn't have to have reproach. That should be those heathen women who are coming in after they realize that these men are children of Israel. And what is that name? They say, give us your name to take away our reproach. They then need that name of Israel. But if they are baptized women walking in the word, they shouldn't have to have no reproach where 7 women are grabbing hold of a man. And then look at the conditions. These conditions say that a man have to take care of the woman. Read let's go to Isaiah. Hold your place right there. Isaiah 4, and start that at verse 1. And I want you to see the difference in the conditions. All right? In the conditions, as it is said by the law, a man has to take care of this woman. Now this is the future kingdom that's to be set up now. This stuff is not taking place yet. All right, Isaiah 4.
And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name to take away our reproach.
Right. So they need the name of Israel to take away their reproach. And check this out. We're going to eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Now the whole law has been changed around. Understand, this was even written during the Old Testament times. But this is a prophecy about New Testament things. These women have walked in reproach, not covering themselves the right way. So now 7 of them are grabbing hold of one man. Now they buying their own bread and paying for their own clothes. That's not the setup before. Now, you have to ask yourself, how is this switched around? Because they didn't carry themselves like they were supposed to. See? Why do they have reproach? Daughters of Israel don't have reproach. These are the women who didn't walk in the culture. Now that it's time to do some things and they are left among the other women, now they need somebody's name of Israel to take away their reproach. You have to consider that. Go ahead. I got you coming, bro.
I was just going to say, and the reproach is actually stated in the chapter before.
Before.
It starts talking about the daughters of Babylon and what's going to happen to them. And it does say things like
they're high, they're haughty.
Instead of well-set hair, there'll be
baldness. That'll make you cover your head.
So it's
let the hair come out.
Reproach.
I bet you cover it then.
Exactly.
I guarantee you cover it when that hair come out. Because it's different from being shaved. When a woman shave, yeah, she bald, but it's evenly bald. When it fall out, it just fall out in pieces. Right. I guarantee you they cover it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that was a vision of the future, but we can see it present. That's your independent women.
Exactly. I can do all of these things. Here go. You want some independence? I got it for you right here. You gonna have to buy your own bread and wear your own apparel. That don't mean the other women who might have been married to that man before, guess what? They still taken care of. Now you have to ask yourself, wait a minute, now why this one having to take care of herself and the other ones are covered under this? Because they walked under this, so they covered under this. You walk under that, so you have to deal with that. Right. All right, now let's go back to where we were. Matthew chapter 22, and let's start that at verse 23.
The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him.
Now, this is what the question is about. The question is about resurrection, but you have to see how Christ deals with this question of resurrection. So it lets you know just how solid this concept is if he uses this concept to deal with resurrection. Go ahead.
Saying, Master, Moshe said, if a man die, having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother.
Now, this doesn't matter if the brother already had a wife. Understand, this was the situation that Ruth ended up in. The one brother there was one before Boaz. And he said, look, my inheritance is already set. So that he already had a wife and kids. So then when it was time for Ruth to come, he was the next one in line. He was then to marry the woman. And he said, look, man, if I do this, it's going to mar my inheritance. I'm going to have to divide what I've already divided amongst my sons. If I raise up seed and have another child through this woman, if I marry her, so I pass. And that's how Boaz was able to get her. Go ahead.
Verse 25. Now there were with us 7 brethren. And the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife unto his brother.
Right. See, this is the thing that people will call this woman all kind of names today. She done went through the whole family. That's what she supposed to go through. Once she married into the family. What you think Ruth did? When this man died, she went with her mother-in-law and married somebody else in the family. So, they're asking him this question. This woman, she married this man. This man died, and they didn't have any kids. Keep going.
Likewise the second also, and the third unto the 7th. And last of all the woman died also. Therefore in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her.
Now, this woman had 7 men, but was never considered a whore. Why? Because each one of them died when she moved to the next one. Go ahead.
Yahshua answered and said unto them, You do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of Elohim. For in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of Elohim in heaven.
Right. So he dealt with this by telling them angels don't marry. Angels don't procreate. Now, This concept that they're mentioning is in the book several times over. Yahshua had the opportunity of saying, oh, I'm going to nail that to my cross, so that ain't even valid. But that ain't what he said. Go ahead.
But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which was spoken unto you by Elohim, saying, I am the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Yaakov? Elohim is not the Elohim of the dead, but of the living.
All right. Now let's go read this concept that he was talking about. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 25.
And you know, there are countries in Africa that still live by this too.
Yeah, speak up, sweetie. I'm sorry.
There are countries in Africa that still live by, if a woman husband deceases, then she's supposed to marry his brother.
Yeah.
And that's still alive today.
Oh yeah, I've heard people talk about it. It is the culture of what's written in this book. It didn't just happen. You have to understand, our people were spread amongst what they call Africans. Our people have been the punishment of the God of Israel is being captive. And we have been spread across the four corners of the globe. And where we went with our practices, other people picked those things up. They lived amongst one another. It was the same culture. You see people dressing, they dress a certain way. You'll find people come over here and they lose their culture. Those people came over here, they had culture. But then they hang around and pick up that Babylon way of life. Deuteronomy chapter 25, and let's read verses 5 through 10.
If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her.
Right, so they didn't just imagine that custom in Africa. They got it out of this book. This is the culture of the Hebrews. See? So it didn't come out of somebody's mind. So when that brother was questioning Christ, he was questioning him about the law that was handed down to Moshe. This is Yahweh's law. This is Yahweh's culture. Yahweh was the one that said this is the way it was supposed to go, not man. Go ahead.
And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother, which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate of the elders, and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother.
Right, a duty. A duty. There's no thing about, what if he's already married? Nobody asked you that. This is your duty to marry your brother's wife and raise up seed in the name of your brother. Go ahead.
Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak unto him, and if he stand to it and say, I like not to take her.
If he stand to it, they are trying to persuade him to marry this woman. All right, you understand what is written in this word. You understand that this is your duty. He's, no, man, I don't want to take her. Go ahead.
Then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel, the house of him that has his shoe loose.
He has now lost his status among the community because he would not raise up seed, because he would not marry his brother's wife and raise up seed in the name of his brother. He has now lost his status in the community, his name. He is now a proverb and a byword amongst his people. See, people are going to have to figure out whether or not they're going to serve Yahweh or whether they're going to serve Mammon. Because see, what happens is, it's a whole lot of things that Yahweh has set forth that people don't like.
But you can understand that because the brother's house would die. The brother's house would die if the woman doesn't have a seed and the brother doesn't do it. The brother's house dies.
But see, people not thinking about Yahweh's law as it pertains to the maintaining of the house of Israel. People are thinking about Yahweh's law as whatever the hell they like and what they want. Go ahead.
In a situation with Boaz and Ruth, Had Boaz not stepped up, that other brother would have been the house of the man that had
They had his shoe loose.
Right.
Exactly. And she could have said, hey, somebody gonna have to deal with this. Point blank. By her going back, she was due a husband out of that house. Mm-hmm. Somebody was gonna have to step up and take on that woman. Now, let's go and read a little bit more on this concept. Let's go to Genesis 38. Now, let's read on this. And now, this is the part that's, interesting. Before the official setup of this law, let's see how Yahweh dealt with people in dealing with it. Now, so you have to understand that there's a culture then for Yahweh to deal with this. There already has to be a certain culture among them. Genesis chapter 38, and I'm going to go ahead and start at verse 1.
And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adullamite whose name was Hiram. And Yehudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua, and he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again, and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chizib when she bare him. And Yehudah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Yehudah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh slew him.
Uh-huh.
And Yehudah said unto Onan, Go in unto your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to your brother.
Right. Raise up seed unto your brother. So this concept is even before the official law. Go ahead.
And here we have the father telling his next son.
Exactly. So where are they getting this concept from? Go ahead.
And Onan knew that the seed should not be his.
Right. The very point that Lael just mentioned. It will be raising up the house of the brother in the house of Israel. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahweh, wherefore he slew him also. Now,
Yahweh slew him because the thing that he did was evil. Now, it says, he knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife that he spilled it on the ground. Instead of allowing the seed to get that woman pregnant, he spilled the seed. And then Yahweh slew him for spilling the seed because he laid with the woman, but still did not allow that woman to receive a child from that seed. Now, understanding what this was, this was a direct situation of where this brother was supposed to raise up seed. This was the reason he was with the woman. Now, you have brothers who will then read this and then tell every brother, if they spilled their seed, even in wearing any protection, that those brothers are then transgressing Yahweh's law and can be killed. Not understand this was a specific situation. This is why you can't let everybody teach you this word. You know how many brothers I've heard a brother misleading younger brothers, not understanding what's going on. So they telling them you cannot, spill your seed. Spill your seed. So they telling the brother you can't wear any protection. And you can't remove, you must go full fledged. So this brother got to have, 90,000 kids. This come from the brother who has no job, no kids, no nothing. But he's trying to put this weight on this younger brother, and you have people that, they're like, hey, bro, we married, we already got 2-3 kids. Hey, we ain't trying to have no more. Hey, hold on, bro. You do that for yourself. This was a particular situation. He married the woman. He was going in unto her to raise up seed. Then he spilled the seed. It was wicked. So trying to apply that to every brother is out of order. So that's why my teacher used to say, be careful how you hear what you hear. Did you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it's all about passing on the DNA in that brother's house. And that was the whole point of doing that anyway. He did the little pleasurable act, but then wouldn't pass on the seed to raise up the house. I mean, it was wicked.
But that's what things are about today, is self-gratification without thinking about the whole family of Israel. Yahweh is raising up the family of Israel. And Israel is going to have to learn how to be a family. We talk about the nation, the kingdom. All of that started with a family. You don't get to nation and kingdom without family. And that's the part that we have to get back and learn the basics, because it is there where the adversary attacks us. Mm-hmm. So these are the things that we have to figure out. So hopefully within that, it's some of that may have been uncomfortable. There's certain things that I won't go into on the Sabbath day, because I know that there are younger children around. But there are certain things that have to be read and taught so that people are not going and dealing with things out of order, because you have those that are just too afraid to ask certain questions. They're too this or too that. And I'm not willing to let my salvation fall. I'm not willing to let myself get thrown in a lake of fire because I'm embarrassed to ask a question. If this part of what we talked about was embarrassing in this class, then some of the questions that I asked my elder, I should have disappeared into the dirt. But I got my answer. And then he showed me in the book where my answer come from. So I don't have to worry about nothing. I didn't turn around and just, do this or think this or, I asked this guy. No. I need to find out, hey, I need to know what's the law on this. What thus says Yahweh about this? The word says you should seek the law at the priest's mouth. So don't go to Yahweh and claim, well, I didn't know. Well, why you didn't know? There was I put that little crazy looking dude up there. Yeah, that little crazy dude. Yeah, I sat you right there by that little crazy dude. Why you didn't ask that dude? Right. Judgment. What they going to tell you when you go to court? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Go in there and tell the judge, I didn't know if I took that money from that campaign that it was illegal. It's what? That's not our problem that you didn't know that was illegal. When you took the money, it was your responsibility to find out all the laws containing receiving that money. Guilty as charged, go to jail. There are people that was in office that have gone to jail for the minuscule of things. So not understanding or not knowing the law is not justification for breaking it. Especially when we'll go on the internet and research anything. We'll research some of the most damnedest thing. We can find the nastiest, disgusting stuff. It's folk, you open up their computer and all kind of porn come up. Now how the hell you find that? You found that, but you couldn't find out what thus says Yahweh? Right. No excuse. We have a computer that we can look up anything. What you use it for? Mm-hmm. See? We use it for damnable things and not things that pertains to our righteousness. Well, that's all that we're going to do for today. Let's leave out with a prayer. We're going to face the east. And all males remove their head covering. And females always pray with their head covered. Abba Father, Most High Covenant Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, we thank you, Yahweh, for allowing this remnant to gather together to read out of this legacy that you have left unto us. We pray, Father, that you would open up our hearts and our minds and our spirits, that we may be able to retain the teaching, the things that you have opened up unto us. We pray, Father, that you would allow your righteous law to guide our steps, to direct our path, Yahweh. For as it is written, it is not in man to direct his steps. So we pray, Father, that you would direct us, that you would light our way so that we can see that path that you direct us on. We ask these prayers, Yahweh, not only for those that gather with us physically, but even those that gather by way of phones and by way of internet, those that gather out of a pure heart to serve you in truth and in spirit. In Yahshua HaMashiach's holy and divine name we pray. Amen and hallelujah.
Amen.